So, welcome everybody to the Organisational Performance and Audit Committee of July. Apologies, we have Alan Beard. Although, is he here? Oh, great. Sorry, Alan, I can't see you. Oh, yes, there you are. Sorry, Alan. And an apology for lateness from Bruce Robertson. So much of please. Thank you, Councillor Wales, Councillor Gunn, all those in favour. All right. Next page. Any declarations of interest?
Yeah, it may be an overkill, but because of the presentation we had the other day on procurement interests, I have asked EU to bring together all my consents and to have it sit with Jan to the detail of water take, water discharge, well consent or irrigation, so all housed in one place. The reason for that is after the last presentation, we felt that we needed to make sure that staff knew what consents were alive, and if there was any interests came up that we were sure that from the day one. We had difficulty partway through a conversation whether we participate or vote. So I've done that. I took advice from Bruce Robinson with the seems needed or not. I felt good by having that in that central place. So I just want to clear this.
So through the chair. So Neil sharing out just a broader view of how we left and building on what Councillor might not sit the chair, but we'll go with it.
And that also right across all the committees, that won't just be. That also is relevant for all the committees.
Yes, yeah, for the council.
But based on elected member and other member representation. We do have a discussion with OAG tomorrow, so this is progress.
I think just for the conversation, while the OAG meeting tomorrow, we do feel that they have a decision tomorrow. So I said to Bruce, well, what can we do to show that we understand the issue and what can we do in the interim? It may actually need to go to a high court decision to actually clarify, because otherwise
So do we need a
I know, I'm just saying, what I've done. I talked to Jim about it. My understanding, my understanding is, and I've got the indication today, we think it's probably good for all people to be involved in that, and we're going to expand it out. So I'm just bringing the bids to go with that.
So one of the discussions with the OAG is what do we require as council, what do we require from the councillors and other members in our conflict of interest register or in our interest register. So again, like the fact you've done that, boys, we will get some information from them and then come back with a more template and a more prescriptive. This is what we require from all of our members.
brilliant? Wonderful, thank you. Public forums, petitions and deputations. I haven't been notified of any. The confirmation of the minutes of the 11th of June. They're in front of you. Would like to move those so that thank you, Councillor McCullum, seconded Chairman Horrell. All those in favour, please say aye. Discussion. It's 12 minutes. Very wise. Notification of extraordinary future business, supplementary reports, anything there?
It probably comes under 7 as well, because I know there's work happening, but I'd like us to formally ask the staff. We as Environment South, it actually looks like we're going to get a considerable amount of money from government. We need to understand how we track it, how we're going to into our existing systems or alongside our systems, our work plans, our staff connection in that full and framework, because I'm quite conscious that we need to follow the ES expenditure and income. That is actually a core business, but it looks like there's going to be a number of things that are going to sit around the outside. them may not quite be around the outside, but we need to get a full understanding there, otherwise we won't be able to understand the business, follow the business, and actually report back to government around this money went out. How do we respond? Can we give clear detail how it's spent? And also understand there's a component that we will need to raise through a probably long-term planning process. We probably need to start that now. We've been promised the money, we don't know when it's going to come, we need to get clarification on that. And I think I'm really actually asking us to be proactive on that. I'm looking for that in the near future, not in a long way, because I need to get a better understanding how it's going to hit us even this financial year.
So, Chair, can I ask?
Please.
We've got as I outlined in the council, we'll bring a paper through very shortly, just to get your endorsement of programs of work which affect on the council, including the process forward, including how we report, how we manage it, and also how we need to be sold on something as well. So that'll come very quickly because this is coming at us a little bit pace.
Councillor Cook.
We have to spend money and then payment back, or
No, this
the
is
occasion here.
we understand it's upfront. There'll be a fast track process in terms of dishing the money out the one of the usual complicated systems that we usually attach to this to government funding. We'll see, but at this stage, I understand there's going to be some sort of upfront. Once the contract's signed, upfront amount coming. It's actually percent the money was good. So they are looking to how do they make it easy, it's straightforward, perhaps is a bit of work for us to accept this money, but so government's also demanding we have good approach management and reporting in place. So I'm not presenting it to, so it's a given that we also need to be doing the same for the council and for everyone.
You need a bank account.
Yeah, I've already got mine.
I'm not sure that that's the right kind of question.
All right.
Councillor McVeigh. Well, thank you.
We did talk about it a couple of years ago, I saw it in the update last night, but I just wanted to make sure that we did a formal process from the council. It looks like we go across a number of committees, and we need to decide how we report. Is it the full council or how we so I was thinking in short saying,
once again, all customers traveling to Queenstown Flight 607 are now required to proceed through security and proceed to gate 27. That's flight 607.
Thank you. Now, Bruce and half of the airport, I think.
Yeah, sorry about that, you guys. Obviously you can hear me, can you?
Yeah,
Very well. Thank you.
Hi there.
I think it's just noting whether it's in item 6 or 7, it doesn't matter. I think we're not asking questions today for reply, but we're asking for direction.
And that'll be soon on.
Yeah, I haven't got a meeting, but it will need to be quick because we've got pressure on us from both ends, from government and from council offices.
Chairman Hall?
Yes, there was discussions on some of the stuff around last Friday, and we are talking about trust and for some like quickly, but fine print of this thing. You get the announcements, which fine prints are a little way away, and it helps. But it was great report. We should be able to track that money. I think it's like everybody said, about sort of happens. It's probably a little bit similar to that. Shield service like in South Florida, all agree with that, and most of the paper is.
So we'll cover the office 687 from the only thing I'd like to draw your attention to is items 11 and 12 in the public excluded business at the end of the meeting. Gary Matthews doing the divisional update for us is will be at another meeting, and so we have swapped 11 and 12 over to the next public excluded space so that we can accommodate you. Okay. Chairman and Councillors' reports. Anybody have anything here? Thank you. On 9, General Manager's report, item 1. Tanya, thanks.
for the month was above budget. We had a good month with regard to money coming in from receipts and compliance areas, monitoring was above budget, monitoring and compliance. So came in a bit stronger towards the end, which was good. In income from investments, substantially above budget. The market changes. So just note that at this point, in May, we were actually above, we surfaced and come back above the original budget. You might remember in March, we were $2 million below. So a big change in investment. And its strength, our people budget continues to be just slightly favourable, 2% better than budget. Contractors and consultants continues to be unfavourable or above budget. Operational costs are favourable, and then we've got our flood expenses coming in. You might see there's potentially going to be a little bit of a trade-off here between operational expenses being better and the flood expenses. But we had to reallocate and reprioritise some of the budgets in the area. Outside of the insurance claims, it does look like it's actually going to be a exchange of costs. So it may not be as it's certainly looking like something will be as detrimental to our budgets as we thought back in April. The forecast that you've seen, looked at last month, we were forecasting a full year end of minus 2.5 million. That forecast is now 1.5. Result of improving forecast in the income, which I didn't actually note here, but we had also a sizable income from flood damage to properties where they had to contribute. So we've received what we call local contributions of several $100,000 on top of monitoring income and in return to the probability of real income from investment. Does look like we will certainly be on the positive side of our very negative forecast. That's a double negative, but not promising. I'm just suggesting that it's certainly heading in the right direction. Before we move on to anything else,
Thank you. The consultants and contractors line, where do you think that's going to end? Are we going to be, it looks like it's going to be above what we budgeted on. In theory, we can only move, like I said, about $1 million, but in the past, it looks like it's coming more.
You were forecasting 8.6,
yeah,
which is $2 million above the original budget.
So I think, Tanya, is it correct that the mid-dome is around the 1 million, so that's in and out, so there's a income, other income is over 5 million and the contracting is over 5 million for that.
It's it is under $1 million, but yes, it's a large component. So they did here, and it's other income contractors here in the variance. We did receive, I think, $700,000 of extra cost to spend on behalf, so it's not necessarily direct cost. And we had discussed, I think, going back to March, where those costs were falling. Consent appeals continues to grow. It's a large consent processing is outsourced, and then consent appeals would make appeals.
I'm just wondering, I'm looking at here, we're going to have quite a busy cash flow balance sheet going forward. It would be nice if we could isolate out some of these other things from our normal current account business. In other words, the dome trust, all that stuff sits outside, but we can see what it is independently, and then we go to like a consolidated account for the overall position. We've got this here again. You've actually got what I would suggest is influencers sitting in here that actually really don't tell me about the business. business, they can with cash flow, but not actually business to business. And I'm just wondering whether we can find a way, with my team sitting here too, we're going to get probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 other things sitting around the outside, that we can actually prune those out so that we can actually follow the business. Because I'm actually quite keen. We've seen yesterday two which I would presume to be quite chunky reviews come in with a cost structure against them. And I think this line is a line that looks like it's always heavily movement at the tail end of the season. So in the fourth quarter, we actually see quite a bit of movement there, even though it looks good early on. It seems to be weighted quite heavily. I know we've put some dynamics around it, but this is a line that can actually take us in and out quite easily of their day-to-day business.
Yeah, so I would agree with that in terms of separating out those other activities that are a bit abnormal, like they're not our everyday business. So we'll take that up and consider how we report that back. With regards to the timing in the fourth quarter upsurge in expenditure, I mean, we have made and we continue to make improvements in the phasing of the budget to try and align budget phasing to what we know is the way that things happen in the normal course of business. So we try to get that aligned. We're not perfect yet, but we continue to try to get better.
That's cool.
Just the question I would have, I see what I was getting at, but for clarity and continuity, I'd like to see this spreadsheet we've got now continue in its present state, and we deal with those exceptions to budget or those outliers by way of a separate spreadsheet or in a narrative in this report. I think it would skew this if we start adding lines and things in there where in fact, as explanations provide variances, when in fact we can deal with that further on in the report.
Yeah. So can I suggest that we as you all know, we're moving or intending to move to quarterly reporting, and with that is a changed format. So let's take this up. Let's start to take that up. And so when we work through that, we've got a workshop that we are setting up to present back what we think is an optimal solution. But we'll take this issue into that workshop and see if we can present something that makes you better. I guess one of my views is I don't want this statement to be significantly different from what's going to show up into our annual report. So sort of with you, Councillor Cook, in terms of, we don't want to be reporting this, but then you get the annual report and there's a substantial difference. So I kind of agree with that, but then also understand Councillor McCullum's position that there are some chunky items that can skew our view of these reports, which we want to try and identify separately. So, yeah, I understand the issues that you're raising.
So just following on from the conversation, and I'm not disagreeing anyway. I'm also clear that increasingly in the future we'll be looking for government and other investment in our business. So I'm not seeing these as anomalies. I'm seeing these as probably the way we'll see things go forward, increasing funding, and remember they are all achieving own outcomes. So this issue is how do we present it, and so clearly see so even with Bill and Tony and shape up coming back. But I'm not small economists, we actually need that government money to achieve what we want to do with the time. If we don't get it, we're not going to deliver on it. So these are actually essential.
If I had the expectations, I think the difficulty here, and I appreciate all the points of view, is that that money came in after budget. So it wasn't in the budget, and I think potentially we could solve this by having a reforecast budget, an updated forecast, and increasing the expenses, we might be looking at some new actions. So there's opportunities to consider other ways of bringing this information together.
Question I would perhaps have is just the system that we're using can make that easy, make those changes easy.
We can make it, we would do it quietly.
I've just had a request from one of the online for everybody to speak up a wee bit. sound as fluid, shall we say. Yeah, I think when I was online yesterday, it was really hard to hear people at the variance. If we all speak up, that will help.
Bruce is quite not Bruce.
But not the comms that people. Are you right there, Tanya, if we get moved there? Yes. Something like to move there?
Sorry, I was just going to cover off the balance sheet here.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
And
sorry.
go into the investment. So, page 16, the balance sheet or branches position. At end of May, we had an overdraft of 2.3 million. As at the 24th of July, it was 3 million overdraft. Accruals on that balance sheet represent monies outstanding at that point. At the 31st of May, we were still waiting for the grant from NEB, which is represented here. So things those numbers will have decreased. Yes, we'll have the debtors balance showing cash flows. It's just simply showing our funds movement during the year, including the drawdown that we have had of managed funds. And then finally, the debtor statement showing we received in 2 months time representing that outstanding grant at that point, which is now received. Those in the 3 months column are under management, active management, other than the rates, which we an ongoing process, and we have chosen not to pursue at this point through debt recovery. So we have reconnected with people working into them back in May. We need to perhaps make a decision before the next rates go. So that's the end of that report.
Any further questions on those last one? Would like to move there? Secretary, please. Councillor Callum, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 2, the investment report.
So this is the investment report for May. We have one for June. I would like to take that May report as read.
The second report is probably one we
Yep,
recommend.
that's right. Thanks. Councillor Callum, any file, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 3, the investment report to June.
Thank you. So June, the rally in the market continued, and the portfolio increased again, 185,000 over the June, over the May balance. Leaving at the 30th of June, $28.3 million in the fund. Today, the balance is 28.8 million. It continues to increase. As per our advice to JB Weir, we had asked that they put aside funds prior to August to allow the drawdown to fund their ongoing operational activities. They completed that near the end of June. So you can see at the end of June we had a balance here of 3.8 million. Our performance versus benchmark is improving. A little bit to catch up in some areas, but has made some improvement here. We will, as our review our cash balances in the near future, and look to start to draw down some of that $3 million as our draft increases from this point.
Councillor McCallum.
The previous item, but I think the landscape's changed a little bit going forward. When we looked at this earlier on, we didn't see the TY announcement. There was quite a difference in the way the government's treating things, and some of the expenditures toppling IOC early September. What I'm getting to is I think there's going to be some pretty big challenges coming at us in the next conservative approach. And the reason I say that is I just don't know how much we can go back out and take out of our reserves. So I'd like to get a better understanding of why this touchable, because I think we're actually just about at the point where we don't have a lot to come and go on. But there are other reserves there for a event, and we need to make sure that's protected because that's community made put aside for it. So we're saying actually we need to get a little bit better understanding. I think there's more pressure on this current year as we've just started going forward, and we may need to think that while we're proposing for a deficit, we may need to be thinking about that needs to be close to zero as we can. And we've got some big challenges coming because if we don't make that move now, if the TY does change in August next year, we will indirectly be affected through our income streams. So it's more of a heads up comment than anything else.
The reserve, a report on reserves will be coming up in the activity report where we can review our reserve balances and our forecast.
That's cool.
The chairman Southwood is in favour that the dividend payment will be the same in 6 months. This year, that's not affected, and their announcement also indicated that they didn't feel that the coming closure of TY wouldn't really start winding down until this time next year. I think this time next year is actually going to have a great effect on the port business. It's reported quite possibly, so I hope we're not being too negative.
No, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to make sure that I'm aware of what's coming. So that while there's guarantees within the board for a period of time for the board, the effect on the profit line is actually quite minimal. But I don't think we were going as a problem. So there's going to be some pretty big things that may come at us and blow on effect. I'm just saying, but I'm approaching this as personal with caution. I'm just sharing that with council. I just want to make sure that we're in the best position we can be. No rules changed, even the last couple of months.
Thanks. So you just pass a comment. You
I'm
don't have a question or a request.
I don't need an outside of
So I might note, so a little bit of work that's coming up over the next couple of months is we're reviewing our financial strategy, which will then influence our investment policy, which then will give us an opportunity to reflect and revisit our cycle. And that's really where, from councillors, that's where you get in and you influence what is the makeup of our portfolio. So that work is, I think I think we've got that on sort of circa the next 2 months that we cover that off. So it's revisiting that silo and then talking about how that's structured, what we're investing in, and how that's aligned up to our reserves, I think is probably the piece of work that you're looking for.
Jen Horrell?
I think what Lloyd was alluding to is actually where our LTP is how we deal with the legacy of government money, but also requires the local input. So we'll be leveraging our balance sheet, some things like flood bank improvements, obviously non-candidate loans, things like that. It is going to be challenging with COVID and opportunities, but to be able to leverage those opportunities is going to make us work.
Something like to move there. Councillor Cox. Anybody else? Second, please. Councillor Callum. All those in favour, please say aye. Against. And next time. Takes us to item 4, the long-term plan update. Rachel and Wilma, is this a joint chat? No, no, wrong way.
Thank you, Chair. So at the time that the agenda was circulated, we were still awaiting the official advice that came from Department of Internal Affairs and the Office of the Auditor General through Solgan and the centre group that's been working to support local government. It's finally arrived for us to provide us with a sense of direction for the LTP. It came on Monday evening, so I'm going to update you on that now and just talk you through the very high level direction of travel. So the first thing that we were no surprises, by the way, in this document, but there was some clarification of advice. The advice has also been through the sector's lawyers, which I knew for some reason. So the advice around the long-term plan is that there have been discussion about whether or not to basically cancel the next LTP, to take the first 12 months inside this year, variety of options. I decided not to do any of those things, to proceed with an LTP, but to take a very COVID recovery focus to it and reflecting your comments, Nicole, very much the issue is about taking that long-term view, being very open with the public about our direction of travel, but also being very pragmatic about what's achievable and to expect that this is a landscape that's going to change in the next 3 years in ways that we may not expect because no one's able to actually really give us a clear steer at the stage about, where the international level of the economy is going to go. So what this is talking about being is an LTP that's highly pragmatic, as I say, very financially focused on budgets, that it's very important to be clear to the community about the substantive matters that we intend to actually address across the next 12 months, and that reflects the comments that Neil made in looking at our financial strategy that you may recall we talked through in relation to the annual plan. That is a 5-year strategy. So we're looking for, in the same way that this LTP is, how to actually manage through to the 2024 LTP. That it's talking about the inevitability of the COVID environment being changeable, the need to be clear about what resources we need to free up in order to be able to respond to that. And so it makes a number of recommendations. One is that we're very clear with the public about what our strategic priorities are and what our operational priorities are in the next 3 years. That we don't refresh our community outcomes this time, but all of that waits into the 2024 LTP when the wellbeing framework is expected to kick in, as opposed to this one. That we take a great deal of attention to the funding that's coming to us from shovel-ready projects and from large government grants for all the reasons that we just discussed here, to be absolutely clear that we can account for them correctly and build them into our plan. And that we shouldn't scrimp on the engagement and disclosure direction travel with the public, and that's more important than timing. So what the suggestion is that we should really expect that while we're going to hit a 2021 LTP, that the 2022 annual plan might be LTP refresh for part 2, because there's no expectation, given that we have lost time in this year as a result of lockdown, that we're going to be able to answer the kind of scale of detail that you may expect to do if we continue the whole order of work. And not just the loss of time, but also the need for us to pause and pay attention to some of these major issues that we just discussed. The money coming at us, expectations of government to contribute to economic recovery, the need to take a very strong strategic financial position and to be very clear about our priorities. So that's pretty much the kind of overview of their advice. So very much focused on living community, very much focused on the clear about direction, travel and assumptions. Nevertheless, having said that, we do have statutory obligations. We need to review our policies. We need to be able to meet the requirements under the Act in relation to Section 101 and 102. So we are at work doing all of that right now. And we will briefings, our weekly briefings with you that you will get used to having during the annual planning process, in which we will take you through both the strategic planning process, which we were starting to get right into prior to lockdown, to come back and pick it back up with you, despite the fact that we've been in that hiatus. With you on that, the organisation is underway in refreshing its strategic planning, so we're quite advanced in our planning around what the framework will look like, and we'll come back to you and start that with as well. Our direction of travel and our program of work is taking a horizon of the 2024 LTP and ensuring that all of our strategic work informs this LTP in 2021, any refresh in 2022, and being able to hit really well a comprehensive wellbeing LTP in 2024 and hopefully financial recovery from deficit loading. So what we have here is the next 12 months of work at a very high level, as opposed to the next 3 or 4 years of work. But we'll be working through with you our strategic work program, which is in 2 parts. One is the priorities of the work, which is what we do, but also our performance improvement framework that we started working, which is how we do work. And that is part of picking up and advancing the ES way that you're aware of, and how that's going to feed into greater efficiency and effectiveness in the organisation's performance. As Neil mentioned, the financial strategy, we've already discussed that with you in the planning process. We are building into that some of the assumptions that have arisen as a result of government funding, and so we'll be able to bring that back to you and discuss with you the key principles that underlie it, so we can incorporate that in the LTP. We're also refreshing the investment policy and strategy. The risk strategy will build into that as well, which is also underway. And those pieces of strategic work will be ongoing, but they will feed into the LTP. We intend, as I said, to have the weekly briefings to work through what are quite a number of policies that we need to actually refresh in this LTP. We have to review them by law, so we need to work through those with you, and we'll do that, and then bring them to you for decisions at the appropriate committee meetings and into council. In the lead up to December, at which time we're hoping that we'll actually have a draft LTP available, including budgets, for us to be able to have audited to go to the community in the new calendar year for consultation. What's also on this high-level plan is just a heads up that in this calendar year and in this financial year, we may well need to have a special consultative procedure around a number of matters. So the first one is that we may need to enable ourselves to borrow money, in which case that's probably a priority for us to be able to, and we need to consult on that. The second thing is that, should we need to, the second thing is that we may well need to consult on the funds coming to us from central government for shovel-ready and for environmental projects. That doesn't necessarily need to be onerous, but talk to Bolton about what this might look like. We're uncertain yet what advice might come from the centre on this. Government will want to see if these projects advance, but they might actually lift our levels of service so significantly that we reach this. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what the process for that is going to be going forward. So we expect that that would need to be done for October. Oh, we also have said that we look at our fees and charges in this calendar year. So it's, and we are hoping that we just briefing now on reviewing those. So we hope that we'll be able to consult on that at the same time. So we have one set of things to consult. Any other questions?
Councillor McCallum.
So yes, we're on track to do this. It's a lot of work, and we'll probably be talking to each other quite a bit on the way through this process. And as some more information becomes clearer about maths like shovel, we'll be able to advance. I mean, these things we build into the LTP, we'll need to build the shovel into the CSM plans.
Thanks, Robert. Councillor McCallum.
Could you just give us, you've got on here in the report, see paragraph about the first tranche of well-being. What is that going to look like? Because we're going to take an idea and put it into some sort of measurable context.
Sorry, in relation to the second paragraph about full well-being. Yeah, so you'll recall that the government put the full well-being back into legislation.
How are we going to deal with it in a manner that we haven't, we haven't considered before, but it's another measuring stick that's put across.
It is. And
so how are we going to do that to give people the confidence in institutional government that we've actually meet those well-being targets as well as the other?
So there's no expectation that we do that in the LTP. That's off the table for the LTP. The government has said that it doesn't want us to change the community outcomes this time, because it accepts that we have got a lot of other things on our plate. So the first well-being based budget is going to be 2024. That means that we should have in place by then a refresh of our strategy. We'll have this COVID recovery-based LGP well underway. We'll also have the national environment standards pretty much kind of clear. Our own planning priorities around fresh water will be much clearer. So I'm anticipating that at the beginning of the calendar year 2023, we will begin those conversations with the community to see outcomes, because it's a big process. I mean, we're well advanced in terms of understanding what communities' views are, particularly through in relation to fresh water. So we've got a lot of existing information to begin those conversations. But I have to say, who knows what the priorities of the community are going to be in 3 years' time, after we face whatever the ramifications of the pandemic have been internationally. So I'm expecting that we will start at the beginning of 2023 calendar year with a view to having 2024 wellbeing budget. And by that stage, there will be a conviction. There will be potentially more and different options perhaps than what at the table.
I'd just like to comment, Joe. I think that the community may have walked into the first part of that work and the wellbeing, but when it comes to the reality of what it looks like when it actually lands, there may be some disconnect because what they thought that they're going to get, what they have to do may be need a good communication strategy through the process, because otherwise we're going to lose the community as we come into this, well, the heavy lifting end of this.
Yeah, I agree. So the communication around this work needs to be continuous. I think we get full shadow comes back with you in the way that we communicate through the end plan. I don't expect to wait until we're actually taking the document out of consultation for that communication to start.
Councillor Cook, you have a question?
Oh, just verification. One of the consultation, I'm saying that because of the statutory requirement, the value of the projects that we've got. And what the shovel-ready projects, I have presumed they're already approved. So what are we consulting about?
Well, that's the question that we're seeking advice on. We have two controls on changes to plans based on series of issues of significance, basically. So significance can be fiscal, but it could also be just a lift or change in our levels of service. So there's every indication that these will potentially do that, and they'll be doing that for councils all over the country. So this is a conversation that we're having nationally about what the implications are. So that's the first issue is, are we changing that? There's potential the government might actually not require us to do that, and it may take some action centrally to not make that necessary. So that's one option. But the other option is also the extent to which the nature of the kind of consultation that we take is also up for conversation. So the level of significance means, do we need to go to something like a special consultant procedure? Potentially we might, given the scale of some of these projects. So we would want to see the details, what would be in the contract with government, and then discuss that in the central level for the rest of the sector before coming back with final conclusion about that. So it's very sort of vague at the moment, but it's unclear because exactly which parts of that are. We may not need to do more than inform the community of it over the fortnight.
I'd just like to note that some of that's quite common sense. It's coming in paper in one case.
It is. Another question is quite encouraging. Another question about whether that paper is being released publicly and or if it's broadcast, and not certain how it's being managed in terms of public release. It's certainly being released to the sector because we will have problems with it. I asked for a slightly reading of notice because we were expecting it in the negative information, but I understand today it's so consoled and the council's established. But I'm not sure if it's in this one. And I think all of it's terribly sensitive. Yeah, we're hoping to be clear publicly about the relation.
Thank you. Any other questions? Keep an eye on, Christy, all right over there? Yes. And Ellen, I assume I haven't seen you waiting any sort of Mover for that.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor McCallum, Councillor Cook. Motion, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Thanks very much. Positive. And we have the Cleaning Alliance quarterly report. Who's that? Jody?
I'll point to this
Okay.
briefly. So I'll take the report as read. A couple of points that I would highlight is there are no loans or amounts in default. So we continue to track along well with regards to recoveries and collectability on the loans. And the other thing of interest is that OR has released has issued a number of loans in the last quarter. We're not talking massive numbers, but there has been an increase in the, and it's noted there that ES is now indebted to OR, and I think we have been or will be invoiced for our share there. So it is continuing to progress along, albeit at a reasonably low scale.
Thank you. Councillor Cook.
Yeah, a question about the board, is that because there's been some local promotion of the initiative?
I don't know specifically. We did sort of check and try and get some understanding of what was driving it. It could be somewhat seasonally driven.
Councillor Fail, are you going to recommend?
I've moved into town, so.
Anybody else out?
No, that's quite good to see.
Yeah, it is good to see. I just wondered if there'd been a promotion because the board might have been quite slow off the mark.
So GOR were late starters in terms of before ICC got these up and running, like 12 or 18 months before GOR did. And so I guess it's interesting to note too, as you'll be aware, that ICC charge interest for GOR.
An administration fee.
3.95%, whereas GOR don't have it.
Which is significantly more than your average interest rate, just to remind you. Part of that review that will come through in that paper that we're eagerly looking forward to. Councillor McCallum.
We've had some conversation. We've had some conversation over the last couple of days around this and other forums, but I'm just quite conscious that burners that are going out, are they as compliant as we can be with the year 2.5?
I'm not close enough to understand that, but I'm sure.
I know it probably comes up in a wider context, but I'm actually wondering now whether, I know Canterbury have specific burners that actually meet these standards. Are we clear? I suppose my question really is, are we clear enough around the expectations that we have for instalments, and does the instalments that go in actually meet the standards in which we are aiming for, which it looks like now is close to 2.5
I'm not sure that anybody here can answer that question.
No, but we will.
Lucy,
Lucy might be able to chip in perhaps.
It's then more about the manufacturing location. So when we do get to a point where 2.5 is what's mandated, it will be mandated to manufacture as opposed to in schools. But currently they will be having to meet the 10 limits instead of being the manufacturing limits. So that's half an answer probably. But we need more, which is one of the things we're waiting on with the next one.
Well, obviously, blind burners at the moment will meet the code. I think the question mark is not clear in the last couple of days. The coal may not be able to fuel burners may not get to the new level. But I guess once you've got a consent, you've probably got a period before they. So if you put one in today, so like anybody else's consent until the time frame you have to change it soon. So we haven't actually heard how much difference the size of the particular, how much difference that actually makes the road going out forwards.
We'll come back to you on this. Get the facts and figures.
Thank you. It's quite a conversation which is like that. Sorry, I'm banging on about the paper that's coming, but we really need to get there. Certainly a conversation is still to get. Anything else? Seconded Councillor Fail, all those in favour, say aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Item 6, health and safety wellbeing management system report. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. So the period in question was really, the first report is really lockdown period, which we talked about a little bit in past meetings. The key focus there was ensuring that everybody's mental health was supported to the extent that we could remotely. Also to make sure that when people were working remotely, they were doing so safely, particularly related to the setup of the workstations at home. The return back to work also focused on making sure that we meet the Ministry of Health guidelines in terms of transitioning back to the work levels. But also more than that, again, concentrating on the fact that people get different responses to the lockdown, and that we made sure that we were supporting mental health through that. There is a continuing piece of work for us. We're very well aware that responses to traumatic events can appear sometime after the actual event itself. So our work is continuing in this space, and we have a program of events for mental health as we go through the rest of the year. Also noting that normal health and safety concerns, specifically around the critical driving, did not go away during the period of question, and still remain a focus for us. We activated a vehicle tracking system whilst we were in lockdown, and that went in with temporary policy. And that's been an interesting exercise for the vehicle users here who may be able to reflect on that experience. But certainly, anecdotal evidence has been that it's certainly changed in driver behaviour. The beauty of actually implementing the temporary policy is that we have given it an opportunity to put it into practice and to see which elements we versus those which might need tweaking or amending. So that work is currently underway in review, in consultation with various members of staff, and we can feedback into that. Any questions on the activity?
Councillor Fail.
Just in regards to what's the vehicle tracking we have after that, there has been talk a few people that the accuracy and there's not a huge amount of nonsense that people take. We're not certainly analysing every KO and things like that. But also from a distraction point of view, is that actually more important? So I don't know how exactly it works. You'll get distracted. Wrong. No, I mean, just like, is it when you're trying to fix something that you're not
a lot of that has been mentioned in feedback from staff, and all of those things that we are working through. I think it's my sense is, but I don't have a vehicle, and I don't have little vehicles, so I can't confess with it. My sense is it'll be one of those things that may initially distract because it's novel, but quite quickly behaviour changes. Assuming that everybody's responding to the signals, it becomes less of a distraction because there are no. Anybody who's got one like to comment?
Well, I would say.
Let's start with Jim and Rob.
Well, streamline something that says e-money, and I don't think money's the right word. It'll probably settle down, but there are discrepancies in 70k zones and 50k zones. All of a sudden, if you're doing the right thing, you get an annoying little red car come up, you'd be saying, oh. And honestly, you are actually looking too much at the screen. Yeah, but it'll still be honest, but it does prompt you to walk on the few bad habits that it will help. But I've noticed driving on it, my foot is something slightly worse, and it's supposed to be one of their things for lowering your carbon footprint. It's probably worth it. Maybe it does need a bit of adjustment, but I think really, to be honest, it has had some initial frustration, I guess, dealing with it. I've got all zeros going today.
Not very often you watch get zeros.
Give you remember the name.
Yeah.
James, do you want to comment?
Well, and I'll add to one thing. Steve, I think one of the benefits is actually the distraction. And again, I don't mean that, that sounds wrong, but in terms of trying to moderate behaviour, if you do exceed and say, hey, you've spared and you're given immediate feedback, then that's helping to moderate the behaviour. And so I think we probably all, when we first had it installed, we would have had time for it alerted. When you're not looking at it, you're just looking at the road, just following traffic and it pings off. But you immediately know what it is, you immediately slow down. And I think speaking, so I suppose to give a small example, when we were doing the pilot, we didn't have the buddy turned on, and we just had one of our staff members driving. And it was a very conscientious staff member, and they had 11 speed incidents or events within the space of a week. We turned the e-buddy on, and they had one. And I guess that's the point of it, is like you're getting that immediate feedback. Everyone can take self-responsibility and accountability and moderate their behaviour. They know, there's no secrets. So I'm a big fan, and the numbers that are coming through in terms of the alerts are significantly down from when it was first activated. So it is achieving the purpose that we set out to.
That's come back to your point. So, we are getting feedback, and we are communicating that through people to make sure that our process and practice and that people using the equipment, takes account of things like distraction, and a lot of people are using a new system last night while they're driving, but also other limits, other boundaries that the person policy you follow and do that adjustment. And that's reflects an open and whilst there are grumbles, put it as a positive conversation.
And it's worthwhile just reminding, reinforcing that the driving is the risk, and so this is all about staff safety and also safety of the chain, of course. So
Just as an aside.
and as Amy said, we're working through just severe and might be you. There's a few things we'll just
That sounds quite fascinating. I'm quite glad I've got one of my accountants.
Oh, actually, now you mentioned.
Yeah.
And motor vehicle policy has been revisited in light of e-roads, and that will come through council in due course.
I'd just like to comment on the number 3 in your report, Amy, in the progression of incident investigations, with your report on those coming through. So you just illuminate me a little bit on.
Yeah, so what we thought might be helpful to reflect here is that we do have an accident review as reported. There is an investigation that takes place, and often off the back of that, there is a change to a process or a procedure. So from the spirit of reflecting continuous improvement, we can start to show you some information about what that looks like. As ever, happy to feedback on things that are here, but also things that are not here. So if there is information you want to see through, that might be helpful.
Yeah, especially when we start having a risk conversation. Very helpful. Thank you. Anything else?
Can I just add just one bit? In terms of the, so that was activity. In terms of the actual incidents that have been reported over the period, that was quite low, and that was understandably because most people were inside, not outside. doing things. That's a good thing and a bad thing from that point of view, because you want to make sure that people are not out of the habit of reporting incidents and near-misses. So we are quite active in the communication space about encouraging people for that.
Councillor McCarthy.
Just in regards to the incident, there was one old CP from here, and that's where reported dangerous driving. Was it, or, you know, or, yeah, have a look at that.
Well, no, we did, we investigated that. There was a member of the public came in and said that someone had pulled her up on, say, YouTube, in front of them in the vehicle. We did have a look at e-roads. It was a good view system, unfortunately, they weren't able to tell us, you know, there's no GPS and it couldn't exactly see what was happening from a camera bedside point of view. And staff members spoken to and their account of the situation from the individual. It wasn't his own
Yeah, somebody like to make that then, please? Thank you, Councillor Fowl. Oral, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Amy. Right, that takes us to item 7. Long-term bank progress report.
Council, this is a report that came to last meeting, and when the kind of agenda, the first 2 pages of data and not so this is the updated report.
Councillor McGowan.
This is like 3/4 of the way through. How do you think it's going to change from the end of the year? We're going to complete anything? Obviously, you're going to have 1 or 2 that's still outstanding.
Yeah, well, I think we can actually shadow this is the end of March and lockdown started on the 22nd of March. So the next quarter may, will include, and this I think is a result of programming that is slowing down during the lockdown period, to prepare to relate to 2024.
So we've got a commentary that will explain where the target was not met.
Yes, so my understanding, and this is the first year I've seen this particular kind of report, my understanding for the final quarter's report is that it's drafted by the manager in such a way as to inform the annual report. So there's a much larger commentary for the last quarter, and that's my expectation. And of course, in the annual kind of very much journey, but we've got longer memories than mine. I've not been here last year.
I think some of the issue would be that the targets were aspirational, but we can never, we actually had failed, but the target was always like 100%.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. But what I was getting at was, this is good to see where we're at, but what at the end of the year, we look forward, are there going to be any issues that come up that we can't explain, or is it going to be a big read somewhere?
I think there are areas in the report that are quite clearly as you described, and they tend to have amber lights through. I think that, while the indication in the long-term plan advice is not to change outcomes, certainly from our strategic planning work, and with the setting priorities, we do need to revisit some of our group activities, and the service need to clarify so that they are actually use aspiration perhaps more likely to be met. But that's the kind of
Perhaps I can make a couple of comments. So the report as it stands in terms of Unity 6 off track 3 not applicable is identical to where we landed at the end of last year. So that's what was included in our annual report last year. So I think one of the things that we've done better this year is throughout the course of the year we've been more realistic with where we're tracking and applying an auditor-like lens to the result, because we know how the auditors are going to treat and approach it. And one of the things that we have later on today is we were just talking about the annual plan, and I have given my heads up that there may be some value talking about how they approach the audit for level of service, and that's not for this year, but that's to help inform us for when we go through and set what our targets might be, or our metrics and targets might be under the next LTP. That's that conversation with our auditor, so knowing that it is an area where we could do better, and not be overly aspirational, but we need to be very clear around how they approach the targets, how they do their tests.
I think my comment is that when you read reports like this, you don't hear in a nice way about what's on track. You go straight to what's on track. You go through by section to see what the problem is. Is it significant? And that's probably what my question is. Or is it a calibration issue that is saying, realistically, you can't get 100% on some areas, but 98 or 97 is actually fine. So are we actually meeting target? Yes, we are. There are things that, for whatever reason, we can't quite do, but generally speaking, this is not 50% scorecard. This is 95 plus. This is right at where you expect your practice to be. I think we struggled, when Ken was here, we struggled to bring that through. We understood that we were actually getting fail marks, and if you looked at it in detail, it was actually a really good effort. We actually done a good job.
So the audit process is very binary. It's either you achieve or you don't achieve. So we've got to think about how we then structure what achievement is, but then what is the additional story that we put around it? If we didn't achieve, what is the story that we put around it? Why we didn't achieve, and what we did achieve, that didn't, even though we didn't quite meet the target.
Any other questions? I'd like somebody to move that report. Any sympathy? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried, thank you. And that takes us to item 8, activity plan.
Can I get you to go and grab Mike? So he's just looking at notes that he's in the staff room. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'll cover off this item and then. So the activity report. As mentioned earlier on, we are arranging a workshop with council to move to quarterly financial reporting. At that time, this report needs a refresh to move to quarterly and separate the financial reporting from the risk reporting. That was an item that came through, one of the action items that comes through the last meeting. Yes, I haven't sought to make significant changes to this report, knowing that it probably all feel that it needs a refresh. But we'll propose doing that when we have that workshop. We haven't locked it in yet, but the material, so again, we'll take on feedback that we got earlier on today, but the draft reports are here, so I think we could be doing that within a month. Quite quickly.
The reason I asked that question is at the end of the first quarter is December, so probably need to be in that new mode by then.
Yes. So the plan is that at that workshop we will table our May results in terms of these reports here with the standard format and the proposed new format. So you get to look at them in parallel and understand the difference of the proposed new format. But yes, the intention is that that we then get that new format adopted, and then the first reports, which will be available in late October, early November, will be September quarter. Yeah.
Anything else there? Thank you, Councillor Cook. Seconded by Councillor Fail. All those in favour, please say aye. Next. Carries, thanks very much. Right, that takes us to, past extraordinary urgent business. I don't know what that is. I believe that public excluded business, so, that's the reasons for moving into public excluded today.
Confirmation of lists of items 9 to 12. The reasons for possible reasons is to enable the placement of information out without prejudice or disadvantage to insurance entities, to protect the privacy of natural persons, to prevent the disclosure of use of information for possible advantage, and to allow counsel holding the information to carry on without prejudice or disadvantage negotiations, including commercial and industrial negotiations.
All of these are moving to.
Councillor Cook, seconded by Councillor Fail. All those in favour, just say aye. Thank you. And Boyd, can you just confirm